Magnified, sanctified be thy holy name. Vilified, crucified in the human frame. A million candles burning for the help that never came. You want it darker.
I want you to kill the man who murdered my son.
Hey, nay, 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 nay. I'm ready, my lord.
Today's hit story is Sky Atlantic's Tin Star, a complex tale of murder, grief and revenge, starring Tim Roth, Genevieve O'Reilly, Christina Hendricks, and joining for its second series, John Lynch. Tin Star is made by Kudos, part of Endemol Shine Group, and it also airs on Amazon in the US and has so far been sold to 132 countries worldwide. I'm delighted to say we're joined by Rowan Joffé, the show's creator, writer, and one of its executive producers, and by his fellow executive producer, Alison Jackson. I mean, Series 1, it begins in extraordinary fashion with their child, son gets shot. And that's almost a bit of a taboo, isn't it, in film and TV when someone that young gets killed. And that was the thing that Tim Roth picked out as being the thing that really grabbed him. He thought, hang on a minute, what's going on here? This is a bit different. And you need that humour then to balance out that darkness. You
need a hugely dramatic moment right at the start that everybody can understand and get on board with.
No, pal, I'm sorry.
He's 5 years old, 30 seconds to piss behind the car.
I need a wee wee. I said no.
Dad.
I'm going to pee in my pants.
Hang on. 30 seconds. Dad!
He goes on a rampage of revenge. You need something really kind of emotionally challenging in order to drive him to do that. And keep the audience on side with him, which I think we do.
So Tim Roth's character, Jack, is very much a Jekyll and Hyde character, but his wife, she pushes him at various points, and you don't know sometimes whether he's the bad guy, whether she is actually the root cause of all these problems. Tell us a bit about their relationship and also more about their characters.
It's part of the contradictoriness of the show. You're dealing with alcoholism, which is a pretty dark and difficult subject to deal with, but the Jekyll and Hyde gave us a high concept, entertaining way of dealing with it. So my idea was that he was Jekyll until he has his magic potion, which is whiskey, and then he becomes Hyde. And I think the way that feeds into his relationship with his wife is, there's a big turning point in season 1 where she says to him,
Find them. Find them and kill them.
From that moment on, we are, the lid is off the can of worms, right? Because Angela seems to be the tipping point, doesn't she? And that's something that we develop across that season, and hopefully we'll get the chance to develop more.
We're going to look after ourselves from now on.
It's quite a difficult watch at times, and it's not one to watch with your mobile in your other hand. You have to pay attention. How do you balance that with trying to make it as accessible as possible and trying to make it as mainstream as possible as well, keeping the viewers on side?
I think we had lots of conversations before we started about wanting to make a show that people couldn't wait to get home from work and watch, that it wasn't a chore, that it wasn't difficult, that it was something that at the very forefront was a piece of entertainment.
What have you done? Let's just say we didn't see eye to eye. Trust! The girl could identify him, Frank. It was either him or her, and I chose him. Now, if you've got a problem with that, you can take it up with my associate. From here on in, I'm in charge.
Every time you have a really dark sequence, you offset it with a piece of surprising humour or a piece of surprising warmth. So you're always keeping the audience guessing about what's going to happen, but also what they're going to feel.
The realization of the presence of God's love in all his creatures restores peace.
Nice hat.
For me, if I sum the whole thing up, I'd say that as a combination of working with Tim and Alison, I think what's happened is the show never takes itself too seriously, and that's what stops making it hard. That's why it's not hard work. It's not earnest. It's not worthy. It's got a real sense of fun, and it can take the piss out of itself.
Yeah.
Is it hard to balance that comic relief with the darkness, or does it come quite naturally?
I think it's hard. Tim is a master of subverting darkness and making it funny, but he does it in a way that you feel almost like you shouldn't be laughing, but you can't help yourself.
Hello.
Mum's cooking.
Oh, fuck me, really? Pack your bags, we're going to London.
What?
That's what you wanted, isn't it?
I'm cooking dinner.
Jesus Christ, all the more reason to leave, really, isn't it?
For a murderous alcoholic, he's quite a relatable, sympathetic character.
That's the challenge.
One thing that we do too, I've noticed, is that I'll often put something quite ridiculous in the script, and then I'll wait for Alison to say, no, you can't do that. But although now I second guess her, because what you don't know is yesterday I wrote a scene where someone batters another character to death with a frozen white pudding, and I took it out before even sending you the draft. So yeah.
I'll put that back in now.
Right. Was there an example of a moment you did that, where you thought you pushed the line a bit in series 1 or 2 that we might have seen?
I would fess up to, I think, crossing the line with the character of Gagnon. I really had to push hard against Alison's better judgment to kind of keep him as eccentric as he was. And I feel there is a small subsection of the audience of Tin Star that really love that character. So it's dedicated to them. But most people, I think, quite wisely said he was a bit OTT.
Sometimes I overstep the mark. And I have made you feel uncomfortable.
Filmed in Canada, of course, and a bit like another Kudos show, Broadchurch. I mean, the landscape and the environment is so integral to the show itself. It's almost like another character. You couldn't imagine this being anywhere else. But that filming it out there created lots of challenges.
It created lots of challenges, but there were lots of huge benefits to it as well. People in Canada and the crew are amazing, and you could get into locations you'd never be able to get into here with ease. Moving around is very easy. The crew is huge. The weather is a nightmare. Practically and actually emotionally, it's absolutely exhausting, because we got down to I think it was minus 35. So everyone just had to stay in their car, and we just had to wait there till it rose to minus 26, and then we could work.
Balmy.
Positively balmy.
Something Tim Roth's spoken about was the amount of improvisation that went on and set as well. That struck me as an outsider, maybe that's quite unusual in a big budget original drama. But how did that come about? And seeing as you've done so many drafts, was it a pain to watch, or?
You know, there is a difficult balance to be struck between the scripts we've written and the creative freedom that we want to give the actors. And I think one of the things that Alison has been an absolute genius at is managing to protect the story, but also let the best of the actors leak into it and to allow them to cross-fertilize. And what you have is really special. I don't think the show's improvised. I think it's heavily collaborative, but it's an amazing process.
How's that?
That's fucking lovely.
Bit vinegary?
No, it's
like
nice.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just a sec, let me check. Oh.
Such a waste.
Oh, there it is. Weird, isn't it?
Right at the bottom. That's disgusting.
No, it's not. It's good. This is good. Yeah.
You're a child.
Oh. It'll be delicious then.
Oh.
It's really good.
It is.
No, it's really good.
No, I had it. No,
feel free. No, sure.
And in the writing of series 2, I think you said you play with the form a little bit more. I think there's one episode which is basically takes place in real time.
Yes.
Did you feel able to do that, sort of take a further jump ahead? Now you've got the audience's trust and they're on side and they feel a bit more comfortable with what you're doing.
We tried to build on the games that we played in season 1. You know, in season 1, episode 3, we play a game with time. In episode 9, we go back in time and play with the format. And in this season, we try to do much more of that. There are 2 interlocking episodes which cover the same time frame, but they tell a similar story from radically different perspectives. So in one episode poses a lot of questions that the second episode then answers. And not only does it answer it, but it gives you a radically different perspective on the first episode. That is an incredibly hard thing to achieve in 2 episodes of television, and it almost killed us.
The character played by John Lynch.
Yes.
Presumably when you were looking to cast new people for the second series, you needed a big presence to be able to stand up to the people already in the show, and he is a big presence.
I noticed that when John was playing a character who was quiet, he sort of resonated with this really immense power, and so we created this character who was incredibly still. And it's a wonderful contrast to Tim, and then of course he becomes less still as the season goes on.
What if life here is not as perfect as you think it is? What happens when you discover that we all have flaws?
At least you're not a criminal.
I think you really believe that family, the 3 of them, in the same way you believe the Worth family, you believe this family, and that was really important to us, that they just didn't feel kind of sidelined, that we really cared about them and invested in them in the same way that Anna does.
You stay out of trouble?
Of course not. I'm your daughter. Did you bring me a gift?
New tag.
Yes!
And a piñata for you, Tomas. The border guards opened it, so someone had better check if they ate all the sweeties.
And you built your own town, didn't you? Build a sort of for season 2.
Season 2, we did, yes.
Well, we built on to a town that was originally built by what was the full title of the film? The Shooting of Jesse James by the Coward.
Assassination of Jesse James.
Yes. And
the Brad Pitt film.
That's it. And there were the remnants of their set in a really beautiful location with the Rocky Mountains in the distance. So we recce'd that, and it just felt right for the building of this religious colony. So we expanded on that and turned it into something that wouldn't feel like a movie set, but would feel like a proper working farm community.
So we created a church, a village hall, some houses, and you could go in and out of them. So we could film going in, film coming out. So it felt like a real town that worked, and it had vehicles that worked, and it had cows, and it had horses, and it had dogs, and everything you'd expect.
And Rowan, you said you kept on your phone a little note. Was it lessons learned whilst you were making series 1?
Yes.
About maybe things you could possibly do different, or
yes.
I know you don't want to go into detail about particular things, but can you give us a sense of the sort of thing you were looking at, or why you did that?
You know, it's funny because when I knew I was coming here to do this, I tried to find that list and I can't find it.
Oh.
But I know that it was part of our commitment to do the second season was, you know, how can we get better at the jobs that we're doing? We've always felt like that, and I think when either of us have made mistakes, we've always said to each other, how can I do my job better? You know, and then brace yourself for the answer, because the truth always hurts. But I know that was the spirit in which we went into it, and the spirit in which, you know, we will be continuing, hopefully.
Watch this space.
Yeah, extraordinarily hopeful. I'd go that far.
Well, on that note, Alison and Rowan, thank you very much.
Thank you.